Hello and welcome back to Knit Until I Die. I guess I really haven't introduced myself. My name is Jamie and I'm a knitter and crocheter from Wyoming. I have lived in Wyoming most of my life. I live with my mother and our 3 dogs. I have 2 black and tan dachshunds. The old man is Watson, and he's 15, so he's kind of getting up there. And then the baby of the family is my Humphreys, and he's 6 years old, and he is a bit of an anxiety train wreck. Sometime he may appear on videos, and you may hear him from time to time whining or barking. He is doing much better with his anxiety, but he's like me. The anxiety is never really gonna 100% go away. So why did I start this channel? That's a very good question. I have been an avid knitting and crochet content pursuer. I like watching folks with their knitting and their crochet, and I do a lot of knitting, listening to people. I like learning about different yarns. I like learning about different tools that people are using. Sometimes those tools are interesting, and I might eventually want to try them, but others I know they're just not for me. So the biggest push behind me deciding to start recording myself and at least posting, I'm going to try and be regular at it. I cannot promise that I'll be 100% regular because I do have a lot of chronic illness going on, and I'm not circling the drain yet, but I do have a disease that's basically fatal at this point. I could live anywhere between 6 months and 12 years. We don't know what the future holds per se. We kind of know the trajectory of what will happen. We just don't know when those things are going to actually start happening. And so I wanted to record myself and record my voice and my presence, because there's going to come a day when my aunt and my mom and my cousins and other people that have touched my life and I've touched theirs won't be able to see me or hear me. I'll be waiting on the Rainbow Bridge though. But this will give them something that they can look back on, and they'll be able to hear my voice and hopefully see my joy and reminisce in the projects that I make and in the things that I do now while I'm still here. So, okay, morbid part over, kind of, sort of. Later on, I may feel comfortable discussing what all is going on and why it's fatal. But I don't think I feel comfortable with that right now. But what I will say is that I have an ileostomy, and I probably will talk about him quite a bit. He is very active and can be noisy or annoying. So sometimes you might hear noises like somebody's blowing a raspberry. It's mini-me. Sometimes he gets kind of loud. And because I have an ileostomy, I have to have salt in my water, and I don't like drinking regular water with salt. And so you're going to always find me with like a sparkling water in my hand, pretty much peach flavored, that comes with potassium and with salt, which are two things that my body needs that sometimes are kind of hard to come by. As you've probably noticed, I'm obese, I'm fat. I have tried hard to lose weight, just like many other people, but the trajectory that I'm on now, I don't care. Eventually this body is going to finish breaking down and I will no longer be here. And so instead of putting myself through tremendous pain, and not being able to enjoy some of the things that I still enjoy in life, which a lot of things that I used to love, I just don't anymore. I've decided to grab onto the things that I really enjoy, whether that be knitting and crochet or strawberries, my soda water, or sometimes enjoying a little bit of Dr. Pepper, which I know I'm not supposed to have, but I still enjoy it. And I don't overdo it like I used to. And so I have made the decision myself that I would rather enjoy myself, enjoy what I eat, enjoy what I drink, enjoy what I do, enjoy what I spend my time on or who I spend my time with, rather than trying to get myself to conform to something that my body is probably never going to conform to. A lot of the toxins and whatnot don't filter out of my body like they should. And my body is really good at absorbing when it gets it sugar and salt. So instead of fighting my body in what I enjoy, I'm just going to enjoy life and enjoy what time I have life, what life I have left. Enjoy my dogs, my mom, my aunt, my cousins, all of my cousins' kids, my aunts, people that I consider my uncles, all our extended family, including my Aunt Sherry. I'm really excited. We only have, I think, 3 or 4 weeks left before Aunt Sherry comes to visit us. And if you noticed, I'm talking a little weird. I had to have a root canal removed. The tooth all had to come out because it was a bugger. My dentist has been working with me for like 1.5 years on it. And it just, we couldn't get the fillings to stay. They kept just degrading away. And so then we did the root canal, but the root canal was not good. She could not get that area to be numb enough. And so it was really rough trying to get through that root canal and then getting the crown put on. And then I dealt with an infection around the root of the tooth for quite a while, basically since December, before I finally broke down and said, let's take it out. I was very glad that she agreed with me, and we got the nasty tooth. Actually, this is going to be so weird. I got to see it, and it looked like, one of those really nice teeth that like they show on commercials or whatever, what it's supposed to look like. Like, that's what it looked like. But it was such a bugger. It just would not do what it was supposed to do. So it was time for it to go. So that's why I might be talking a little odd. So I have another kind of sort of morbid topic I want to talk about. Before we do that, I finally finished my self-drafted raglan. I will try and get some photos taken and put up on my Instagram, and I'm going to try and link my Instagram down below. I'm new at this, so please be kind. But I'm learning, and I'm going to do the best that I can, which is all that we can ask for each other. Okay, really excited excited that I finally finished this. And so while I talk, and I'll probably be looking down quite a bit, because I don't know how to knit without looking at it yet. I can crochet up a bugger not looking at my hands, but when it comes to knitting, I just don't have that muscle memory, I guess, ingrained just yet. But I'm working on it. So because I finished my self-drafted, I started, I mean, it's all scrunched up, but I started my Never sweater by KopyKali. She has a YouTube, a channel, and an Instagram. And while we're here, I'll talk about something else. Let me get out of it. I always hated carrying around like written patterns, and I think that's why I would struggle to try and figure things out on my own, so I didn't have to have anything with me. Well, I always have my phone with me, and so I found out about this app. It's called Knit, Knit, and I think it's really cool. So when I open it up, it'll show me the projects that I'm technically working on. These bottom two I'm not really working on right now, but this top one I am. And so I can go into it, and it'll bring up my picture of my yarn, the pattern, and then it's going to tell me like what needles I'm using, what yarn I'm using. I can put a ton of notes in here about the project before I even start. Then I can hit and open up, it's a paid for pattern. I shouldn't have done that. It's a paid for pattern, and I can open it up and get back to where I was in the pattern. But this is what that sweater is going to somewhat look like. I have a feeling I need to increase the raglan and the length on it a little bit, but we'll see when we get there, because I'm still working on the raglan. Okay. And that's actually where I'm at in the project, is just doing the round and round raglan. This yarn is Wicked Purple, and I got it from Sharon of Knit Style Yarns. She has a great YouTube. She's not posted a whole bunch this year, but there's a few videos on there. And I really enjoy listening to her and seeing the yarns and seeing the different things that she does. Like, I follow a lot of people on YouTube that are shawl knitters and sock knitters. And I knit socks, but I don't knit shawls. But I like watching people that do. I like seeing how the different colors work up. I'm one of those people that, as you can see with this shirt, I don't color control. And so I like the yarn to just kind of sort of speak for itself. And if you're a person that color controls, that's awesome. That's just not something that I'm into. So yeah. So what I wanted to talk about while I'm sitting here knitting, and I have your attention for a while, it's kind of sort of mental health, but it's also kind of sort of not. So recently we had a family member take their own life. There was alcohol involved, we believe, and this person had been drinking fairly heavily, and no one really saw what they would think of as like normal signs that something was wrong, other than he was drinking pretty heavily. He left behind a lot of people that loved him. He left behind, the whole crew that he worked with because he was in law enforcement. He left behind, his mom and dad, sisters and brothers, nieces, nephews. But what bothers me the most is that he left behind his wife and his daughters. I wish I could take the pain away from everybody. I wish that I could help them see that there probably wasn't much that they could do to help him, unless he had reached out. As far as we know, he didn't reach out to anybody. And unfortunately, unless someone makes a statement that something's wrong, or that they're feeling like they're going to self-harm, or that they're going to choose to pass, there's not much that you can do. And I know that sounds awful because everybody's like, oh, check on your friends, and they're not wrong to check on your friends and your family. But I was extremely suicidal for a long, long time. Basically from age 15 all the way up until probably close to age 30. And there was nothing that my mother or my grandmother or my aunt or my cousins or my coworkers, friends, there was nothing anybody could do to fix that. It was part of my journey, but I also did not reach out for help necessarily in the right ways. And eventually I found the right kind of help. And now that I'm even older, I know that I cannot get off my mental health meds. They're important for keeping me somewhat stable. And they go along with the talk therapy that I also engage in. And we do DBT, CBT, a bunch of different things, modalities, to learn skills to kind of help myself. Anyways, and so there's a lot of people right now asking, what should they have done? What didn't they see? They're most likely, other than the drinking, wasn't much there to see. And if he did not communicate, which it sounds like he did not, what was going on, no one here is a mind reader. And unfortunately, unless someone actually reaches out for help, it's very difficult to get them the help they need. And now my cousin herself, she's the one that lost a husband, seems at times to possibly be suicidal herself. And I am sorry that she's hurting that bad. I am so sorry that their daughters are hurting that bad. There are so many people in that family and in this extended family that are hurting. and are just completely like flabbergasted about why this happened, how this happened. If you need help, reach out for it. But if you're not getting it from the providers that you reach out to, find somebody else. You have to keep working on it and try not to give up that last little sliver of hope. It's not that I don't have days that are down or days that are really bad, because I do. But I have realized that every minute that I have with my loved ones is a blessing. Not everyone can say that. I feel bad that this gentleman believed and felt that this was the only way to solve whatever problems were going on. I've been there before. I didn't ever use substances, but I had a lot of really, really dark days, and I used to self-harm and do things that were risky. As a somewhat more mature adult, I have other coping skills that I can use. And the people that I choose to surround myself with are in their own ways better for me. I don't spend my time around people that drag me down. I don't know why, why they feel like they have to put me down. But that's on them, that's not on me. And I don't wish them any ill will. I just won't spend time with them. Because life is too short to have to deal with that type of negativity. As you can tell, my hair is driving me nuts. I usually don't leave it down. I usually have it pulled back. And if you watch some of my earlier videos, you'll be able to see that I have it shaved underneath. And it's not a fashion statement. It's due to pain and having to have that area shaved so I could get shots and stuff. I'm slowly letting it grow out, and hopefully, I don't know, eventually when it gets long enough, I'll chop the long stuff back down so it matches, and then let it all grow out together. If you need help, you're not lazy, there's nothing really, how do I say this? You're not flawed, but you may have a disease process going on. We tend to look at stuff that's mental health, or even we lump mental health with genetic diseases, with things that we call like disorders or syndromes, as well as with folks that have substance abuse. And yes, a lot of people that deal with substance abuse issues do have mental health issues, but not everybody that has a mental health issue has a substance abuse issue. Just like not everyone that maybe is diagnosed with autism or ADHD they may not have substance abuse disorder. They may not have other mental health issues going on outside of what comes along with that disease process. And so there's a lot of stigma around folks with autism, folks with ADHD, folks that are living with bipolar, or like a personality disorder. And there's a lot of armchair folks out there that like to say, oh, so-and-so was narcissistic, or so-and-so has a personality disorder. I have a hard time with that because there's a lot of things that can look like a personality disorder. There's a lot of things that can look like bipolar. And so you need someone who's actually trained to really give you those diagnoses. And even when you get that diagnosis, it's not a core failure on your part. You didn't do this to yourself. You didn't cause yourself to have, autism or bipolar, or to have a personality disorder, or to have a substance abuse disorder. A lot of personality disorder, mental health, and substance abuse issues are tied up with trauma. Sometimes you'll find not just kiddos, but you'll find folks that have been diagnosed with attachment disorder, or they've been diagnosed with autism or something. They can have trauma too that makes it look like they might have something else rather than their autism or whatever they've already been diagnosed with. There can be a lot of crossover between all of these different things. And so it's really important to let someone who is a trained professional figure it out. Once they figure it out, they're going to try and help you manage your symptoms. Just like a cardiologist would help you manage heart symptoms. Why we always separate diagnoses, mental health stuff, or, your genetic diagnoses, or your autism, or your ADHD, and substance abuse. Why we take all of that away from regular medicine, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, because you're treating it just like you would if you had a thyroid condition, or you had a heart condition. And they are just as valid as having like an autoimmune disorder. And what's interesting is that a lot of the autoimmune disorders are pretty invisible. So is mental health issues. So can, even substance abuse issues can be very quiet and hidden and not out in the public view. Same thing with autism, ADHD, all of that. And we should look at a person like the whole person, not just pieces and parts. But in the United States, our medical system is not set up like that. It's kind of sad, because I think we miss a lot of things that could be helped, because we either don't know how to ask for help, we don't know that there is help, or we get kind of foo-fooed off. The condition that I'm going to die of, back in 2017, 2018, I was asking about blood work that indicated that something was wrong. But because it wasn't that far off from the normal, the doctors that I spoke with, from their education and their expertise, believed that it really wasn't worth looking into. Well, a couple years later, I got diagnosed with my liver disease. And I'm not going to go into what it is and, all the other stuff that plays into it, but I might have had a better chance to not get to where I'm at right now if we had, because I asked 3 different providers about it, and all 3 were like, oh no, it's not a big deal. Well, when I finally was able to get in with the university doctors, they told me it is a big deal. And they did a little bit more testing and whatnot, and were able to diagnose me. I could have been diagnosed back in 2017, 2018, but I wasn't. And I've had an autoimmune disease. Well, actually, I've had a couple, but one that reared its head all the time when I was a child. And I was just told that I was fat. That's why it hurt. You're fat. Lose weight. You'll be fine. I had an autoimmune disease that's been destroying my joints since I was 5 years old. Everything is bone on bone and has bony growths and all kinds of gnarly stuff going on. Maybe if I'd gotten treatment earlier, it wouldn't be as bad as it is now. But maybe it'd be worse. I don't know. So we have to ask for help. And if we're not getting the help that we need to keep asking. And, if you go to a mental health practitioner and they foo-foo you off, find another one. There's plenty out there. There are a lot of reasons to see anyone in the mental health field. And so if you come across someone that just doesn't jive for you, that's okay. Not every doctor or every therapist or every LCSW is going to be for all the clients. You have to find people that you can work with, because you're a big part of the team, whether they acknowledge it or not. So I guess what I would say is, instead of feeling guilt when you find out someone has, had like a self-harm incident, or they've committed suicide, instead of feeling guilty about it and racking your mind about what you can do to make it better or to make it not happen ever again, you're not God, number one. You cannot turn back time. If that person did not reach out for help, how would you know? You wouldn't know. That's why a lot of mental health and substance abuse and stuff, in my mind, is just like autism. You can't tell. You cannot tell. And they're invisible diseases. And it's hard living with invisible diseases because, again, no one from the outside can really see. They cannot see inside my body and see, you know, that I don't have a colon because I had UC, I had refractory UC. They can't see that I have an ileostomy unless I make it obvious. They can't see that, I had a saddle PE, which is a PE on a pulmonary embolism or a clot on either side of the lungs. Those are very dangerous. You can die from those. No one can just look at me and see, how bad my joints are. You can look at me and see that I'm fat, that I'm obese, and frankly, who cares? I'm not one that cares so much about how you look. As long as you're clean and you're dressed and you're doing halfway okay, it's not a big deal. If you want to dress up to the nines, go for it. Whatever makes you feel the best. Personally, I love wearing my oversized shirts and my leggings, which for me are the most comfortable. But whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel like you, whether that means wearing clothes that are, whatever you want to wear, however you want to show yourself to the world, I'm rooting for you. There's a lot of negativity out there. And we have to try and just kind of ignore that negativity. Leave it there. We don't have to argue with it. We don't have to take it on. Just let it sit there and keep walking. Because there's always going to be someone out there that for whatever reason, whether they're hurting, they're angry, they're jealous, or whatever is going on for them, they feel like lashing out. That's about them. It's not about you. I want you to know that I accept you for who you are. Whether you are cis like me, or you're trans, or you're non-binary, or you don't like labels, awesome. Just let me know what to call you, and I'm good with that. If you're divorced and you don't like telling people you're divorced, then don't tell them you're divorced. If you're single and you're not going to have kids and you don't like dealing with that conversation, change the subject. Talk about what brings you joy. Because in the end, we have love, memories, and joy. Leave all the negativity behind, because when we get to the end of our life, we don't care about the negativity. We care about those that we love. We care about happiness and joy, We care about the memories that we make with others. We don't need the negativity. So shine on. Whatever makes you you, good. And if you have someone that you think needs help, you can offer. You can always offer. Doesn't mean they're going to take you up on it. And if they don't, that's okay. That's not a negative at you. It's just where they're at. And we want to be accepted and met where we're at, so we have to reciprocate that. And even if that means letting someone who we observe as maybe being down, or maybe being on substances, or having some sort of an issue, we can't force them to do what we think is right. We can't force them to accept the help that we think they need. All we can say is that I'm here for you. If they choose to take you up on it, awesome. And if they don't, that's okay too. Don't let negativity, don't let guilt, don't let fear eat your joy. Those wolves are always going to be out there. They're outside that door and they're howling and they can be mean and horrific. Just keep the door shut. You don't have to carry that with you. You don't need those wolves. No one does. And I know that they affect all of us. I have finally gotten to the place where I can just drop those stones, drop those wolves outside of the house. Because I don't need them in the house. I don't need them around me. Mom doesn't need them. The dogs don't need them, you know? Because negativity seems to spread about as fast as a smile. What would you rather have, negativity or a smile? I would much rather have a smile. And so I try to smile and say hi, give people eye contact, which is really hard for me because I have a lot of anxiety, and I don't want people to think that I'm being mean when I don't look at them, but sometimes it's hard for me to have eye contact with someone. Not because of what's going on with them, but because of what's going on with me. So when I can, I try to smile. I try to give eye contact. I try to cover my anxiety and try to give kind words. Whether they're accepted or not, that's okay. I'm just putting them out there to the ether, and maybe they'll help someone down the road. I kind of meandered a bit, didn't I? So, as you've probably gathered, I have had a lot of mental health counseling and therapy and medications and, all kinds of good stuff. I'm in a good place now, but I wasn't always. It's taken a lot of hard work, and I still have bad days. Usually now my bad days are more because of pain and fatigue, rather than so much mental health. But the other day I spent most of the day in bed. It was rainy, it was cold, it was gray, and I just didn't want to get out of bed. When I did get out of bed in the afternoon, I took my shower, got some stuff done, and then hung out with Watson in bed. I think that for the most part, most of us out here in this world, we're just trying to do our best to get by. We all have good days, we all have bad days. We have things that we love, things that are our joy, and we have things that we don't enjoy. And I think that focusing on the things that bring you joy, on the things or the people that you want in your life, I think that is fairly important, at least to me. But I think it's important for a lot of people that realize that we all are going to eventually pass. And I think once we realize that if you live long enough, you're probably going to become, in some way, shape, or form, disabled. If you live long enough, there's a good chance you're going to deal with depression or some kind of substance or mental health crisis. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Doesn't mean that you failed as a person or that you failed your family, because you haven't. So, now that I've been all Debbie Downer, one thing in my life that 100% brings me joy is my yarn. And my mother had to fight my grandmother over the yarn because Grandma wanted to get rid of it. And Mom realizes how much joy it brings to me and to her. And yeah, we have too much. It's not as bad as it used to be because we have been working on our stash. And, to some extent, not necessarily buying a whole lot of yarn. I have been buying more wool yarn and wool blends, as well as cotton blends, because I prefer to work with them over 100% acrylic. There's nothing wrong with acrylic. There's nothing wrong, if your price point is Red Heart and you can only afford to buy a skein once a month, no problem. That's okay. If your price point is higher and you can afford, to buy a sweater's quantity worth of yarn every other week or whatever, good for you. Nothing wrong with it. If you have a stash that's going to outlive you, no problem, because most likely when you pass, it's going to be passed on to someone else in your family, in your friends group, or it'll be taken to, a secondhand shop that can pass it on to someone else. And so, in essence, you're passing your joy. You love your yarn? That's awesome. If you're not going to use it all before you die, that's okay. You don't have to get rid of it. Use what you can, and then when you pass, it can be passed on to someone else, and it'll be a blessing to someone else. There's a lot of people that right now can't afford to buy the yarns that they would like to work with, but they go to like secondhand shops, thrift shops, garage sales, whatever, and that's how they find the yarns that they'd like to work with at a price point that they can afford. And there's nothing wrong with that. Instead of saying you can't use this yarn or you shouldn't use that yarn, I think we should say, use the yarn you like. Like, how hard is that to just be inclusive? Because it doesn't matter if you're talking about 100% wool, you're talking about a wool blend, or you're talking about cotton, or you're talking about linen, or you're talking about silk. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Every type of fiber or product that's turned into yarn takes energy, water, and a lot of times has byproducts. So whatever you can afford, what you like to work with is okay. It shouldn't be any moral, we only use this. There are some really nice premium acrylics out there. I kind of like the Karen 1-pounders and Karen Simply Soft. There for a while I was using a lot of Hobby Lobby yarn. Like, I love this cotton, I love this yarn. I typically don't go to Hobby Lobby anymore. I just don't enjoy the store that we have. And I don't really typically enjoy going to Joann's anymore. We have a fairly small store. I do like going to Michael's every so often, but I don't go very often. And I don't typically go to Walmart very often. However, wherever you can get your yarn that's at your price point, no matter what it is, I don't think there should be any moral judgment for it. I've used all kinds of stuff. I have loved all different kinds of yarns, all different brands, all different makes. I think that's my biggest gripe about kind of the knitting and crochet world, is there's this undercurrent. Sometimes it comes to the top about how, there's a morally right type of fiber to use, or there's an immoral fiber, or there's a judgment over someone because they can't afford to use a certain type of fiber or yarn, or however you want to classify it. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're having fun and you're not harming another human being out there, who cares? It's yarn. It's crafting, it's creating, it's artistic. It is something that speaks to a lot of people. So instead of gatekeeping or trying to control others' views or what other people use, maybe we should just say that everything's okay in the fiber world. That it, if you want to support a certain dyer, or you want to support a certain designer, or you want to support a certain yarn club, or, whatever works for you, that's awesome. Go for it. We just shouldn't judge anyone else for what they use or how they can use it, or if everything they do is they create is from free patterns, or they self-draft it themselves. We shouldn't be looking down on each other because it's hard enough in this world. We should be seeing the joy that our crafts and our art brings to ourselves and to one another. I have a friend that is very good at needlepoint. She uses the stamped, I shouldn't say needlepoint, she does the stamped cross stitch, and she really enjoys it. That's awesome. I'm not going to look down on her because she doesn't knit or crochet. Her thing is the stamped cross stitch. Go for it, sister. Have fun with it. And I don't think that we should look down on people that don't spin, or that don't bead, or, because whatever your craft is, whatever you enjoy is great. Go for it. As long as you're not, dipping people in plaster of Paris and murdering them, why would we care? Go have your joy, share it, take your pictures, take your videos, and if someone doesn't enjoy what you enjoy, that's okay. You don't have to walk beside them if you don't jive. And if you do jive, that's awesome. Just remember that you don't have to focus on the negativity. You don't have to focus on the guilt or the anger or the pain. You can focus on what brings you joy. So, Watson's right here to help remind you that you are wanted, you're needed, you matter to us. Please be kind to everyone, including yourself. Have a great day, and I'll see you later.